Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good double.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family. I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
So now we're going to move over to our spoiler review of The Little Things, currently available in theaters and on HBO Max for a limited time, starring Denzel Washington, Rami Malek, and Jared Leto, and written and directed by John Lee Hancock. So, Greg, we're going to jump over to you first. Kind of give us your not quick thought, but give us your thoughts on The Little Things.
So I was really excited about this film. The cast is amazing. Rami Malek is, especially coming off of Mr. Robot, right? Like,
Right.
I'm like, oh, give me more Rami Malek. I love Denzel, everything he does. Jared Leto can be hot and cold for me. I like him in the roles that he's well suited for, and I kind of hate him in everything else he's in. But I like Jared Leto a lot in this. The film overall actually was a bit of a letdown. I think that Denzel and Rami Malek have good chemistry. Jared Leto, like I said, was really, really good. The film's not as good as the sum of its parts. There are some things that happen in the plot for me that you just kind of shake your head and go, huh? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And for like a, I get it. This is a spoiler review, so I can go into it. For kind of a redemption story, it's a redemption story. There's not enough character development that makes me care about these characters enough to care about what happens to them in the film. And so when they make decisions that don't make sense, I'm not willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. That's
Okay.
I got a whole page full of notes, so I can go deep into it if you want, but
Yeah, whatever
we
you
can
want.
discuss it later. But like, there's just little things. The cinematography was gorgeous. First of all, like, let me go back. I think John Schwartzman did the cinematography, so it was beautiful. The film is beautifully shot. Everything that it needs to be is there. The acting is on point too. It's just not as good as some of its parts. And it started for me with the intro. Like, oh, I get it. It's a period piece. It's like late 80s, early 90s. Cool. You get to see the cars and Trans Am or whatever. And then the girl, like, she sees like she's being followed, and then she stops and pulls over at this gas station, which is obviously closed up. And I'm like, you're driving. You're already driving.
It's so funny you mentioned
So
that.
funny.
I said the moment she realized this place is closed up, go back to the car and drive. Why are we hanging around here?
Not just that, but she gets out of the car and she leaves her keys in the car.
Yeah,
Leaves her running. That's right.
Leaves her running.
I'm like-
I was very frustrated with that.
So, I mean, like, that's like the dumb blonde tripping over the stick in the woods trope on another level.
Sure, yeah.
So right out the gate, I was like, okay, well, that's dumb.
He's right, though.
Not off to the greatest start.
Yeah. I in all of Act 1, I appreciated that. Again, I don't know if it's late 80s or early 90s, but it's kind of that era, muscle cars and old Ford pickups. I was like, oh, it makes it easy to make this story make sense because there's no cell phones, there's no internet, there's no mass communication. So it made better, which I thought was going to be just an old school kind of detective movie. I didn't realize it was going to kind of morph into a redemption film. So I was like, oh, that works out great. The old school detective movie in the 80s, kind of salty. I like all the old cop references, Rami Malek jokes like, oh, what are you doing here, Columbo? Hey, Kojak, I kind of appreciated all of that. And then I was like, oh, maybe it's going to be like a young old buddy cop film, like Training Day, but 80s, you know? This kid who thinks he's the hotshot new detective, but he still has a lot to learn. I thought it was going to kind of go down that road. But he doesn't learn anything in the film. Like, none of the wisdom of this salty old cop is imparted through anything that they do. The supporting cast is weak. We don't care about any of them. Like, oh, we're supposed to care about the relationship with the coroner woman, but we don't because we don't know what happened between them. Like,
we know
there's a little.
Yeah,
we get
we
the
know very
reveal
little
at the end, but it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
By the time we get that reveal, it doesn't, and their relationship is of no consequence. So, all in all, yeah,
I do agree with you that their relationship, like even with the reveal at the end, it didn't like give us anything new. Like we can assume what happened instead of seeing what happened. But that bit of information didn't like oh, but you're like, oh, all right, yeah, sure. Like that was just an added layer to the story. But yes.
Yeah, I appreciated. I think this is weird for me to say, but I think I appreciated Jared Leto's performance more than anything else about the film. It plays out kind of like an homage to Kevin Spacey in Seven.
It definitely had Seven vibes, yes.
Yeah. I kind of like that you kind of get a peek of him pretty early on in the second act where it's like, it's like, ooh. Oh, okay.
Is that you peeking through the curtains, Jared? Is that you there? But because he didn't speak until I clocked it. 56 minutes into the movie. That's almost halfway before we even see this guy. And I do agree with you that once his presence was there and throughout the film, it's like, what the hell's going on with this guy? I care more about you than I do the other two guys we've been following for the last hour.
Right. Like, I'd love to have a slasher film where that guy is the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, give us the prequel to this.
Yeah, exactly.
If he is the bad guy, right? Because we didn't get resolution.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Right. That's kind of like the big question mark there.
Right. He might just be a weirdo.
Yeah.
Before about this weirdo.
Before we talk about the ending, Ernesto, I want to hear your thoughts. What were your thoughts?
So I agree, Greg. It's almost like you picked my brain. Like very similar. Like I will say in the beginning, in the leading up in the beginning, in the opening scene before she gets to the gas station. Like, I was like, ooh, I kind of feeling like this tension that they were building. I was like, ooh, they're building some good tension. But once she pulled up at the gas station, I was like, all right, I'm done. All right, that wasn't smart. I was like, why did she just keep driving? Like, I don't know. It was weird. I didn't like that they didn't give you a setup to Denzel's character. Like, when he gets to LA, everybody's just being mean to him. I was like, why are they being such an asshole to him? Like, he didn't do nothing. He's just here to pick some shit up. And then later on in the film, you find out what happened. But you know what? That could have been explained in, like, a little quick thing, like right in the beginning. Even as he's getting in his truck, they could have cut to like a montage of something that happened in LA to maybe understand why he's even understand why he's in Kern County or wherever he was at. I just thought it was a weird setup. Like I didn't get enough information, and I probably would have cared about his character more, to Greg, to your point, if they had given us that information in the beginning, like right up front in the beginning.
And piggybacking on your point, like, there's only 3 people that actually know what happened. So the rest of the department has no reason to be mean to him anyway. Even with the reveals, like...
That's a really good point.
We're pissed off at this guy because he retired at the top of his game. Okay.
And then
that's
thing,
his business.
Same thing with you, Matt. Like Jared Leto, he doesn't show up until almost 45 minutes into the film. But his performance was the strongest out of all of them. Like he was he played a really creepy guy very well. Like he just, the part where they're...
Go ahead.
Just where he's in they're in the interrogation room, and he's showing him the crime scene photos, and he's like getting off on it, and then Denzel grabs his junk and spells that he was getting off on it. I thought that was a little strange. That was a strange tactic.
Denzel, we could have went a different method here. Let's go. I see why you retired.
But then I don't know. At the end, like, okay, so you've obviously realized it's not him. So the film just ends with 2 cops killing an innocent man and not recovering the killer. I don't know. That was kind of a strange ending to me.
For let's see, I wrote it down here. Okay, so the past becomes the future becomes the past. Denzel was repeating that line over and over again, several times in the film. And so I feel like it just that brief line there kind of maybe... It kind of gives us what the movie is about. Like, because those tragic events happened to him. He accidentally killed, I'm assuming, a victim, right? Is that...
Probably
The victim-
it sounded like a girl who was hiding. She was probably with them and she was hiding.
Yeah,
Right.
or maybe she was the girl at the gas station.
No,
know.
that was fine. Well, I don't think so. Because
she's driving a late 70s, early 80s model Trans Am, right? Like, we don't get exposition for what happened at the time, and I don't remember what she looked like because I didn't really care that much.
No, you're right. But I don't think that's. I mean,
I didn't go back and look to see if she's actually the girl in the gas station.
I just assumed that. Well, maybe she could be. She could have been running into the woods, but then she had no top on, so then that led me to believe that she wasn't that person. I don't know. You make a good point because now I'm a little confused on where in the timeline that fits. But either way, that like he killed potentially a victim or somebody who was hiding in the woods from the crime accidentally, and his coworkers helped him cover up this murder so he doesn't get in trouble. And so now this is technically what happened to Rami Malek, that he accidentally killed Jared Leto. That led him, like Denzel, be like, "Oh, don't worry about this kid. I've been here before. I know exactly what to do. Don't worry about it. Just sit here and just sit here and dig a hole. All right, I'll be back." But I thought the movie was very slow. And it was very dark and it was very slow. And I actually fell asleep watching this movie, and I woke up and I had to more or less restart it, like maybe at the 15-minute mark. And my TV told me that I went through 50 minutes of the movie. I'm like, I did not. So like
That's a lot.
we got about the 15-minute mark. So basically, like I was in and out in a few parts, and like obviously when you're awake, you understand a little bit more things, but like. It had a very slow start, and like you said, Ernesto, like the exposition for Denzel, like the movie just kind of starts right after the opening scene,
Yeah.
And so like it's hard to be like, I feel like you're playing catch up with the movie, and then you're slowly getting reveals, but it really didn't pick up for me until Jared Leto got into the mix, like a lot of it just didn't do much. There was another scene I thought that was weird toward the beginning where Denzel kind of went back into the apartment where they find all the dead bodies or the dead body, and I don't even know how he got in that apartment building to begin with because he had no jurisdiction, from my understanding.
He had a badge.
But
he just flashed the badge.
All right, I guess that's good.
This is the 80s.
That's fair.
They don't ask questions.
And so like Denzel's checking the fridge, and like the landlord. He's like, is this fridge empty? He's like, sue me. My son drank a gallon of milk. And I'm like, what? So wait, hold on. You're telling me that you have a dead tenant in here, and the first thing you do is like check their fridge for milk, and later find out you stole their beer too? Man, what kind of place is this?
What are you doing?
Well, talk about things that, and it didn't add anything to the plot either. It was
it didn't.
Exactly.
So there were a lot of things that I noticed about the film. There's a lot of religious imagery.
Yes.
That kind of gets peppered throughout the film, and I didn't think much of it at first until like later. Denzel said something. I wrote it down. He said something that was like, don't be an angel. Don't be angels.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, I see. The hotel's like St. Agatha or whatever, and it's a slummy hotel with like prostitutes, and St. Agatha's like the patron saint of prostitutes, something like that. Whatever. Like, okay, I get it. Like, but then there's no payoff for that either. It's like, well, all this religion, is it useless? Like, is it wasted? They made a point to kind of cast all these kind of religious icons and imagery and then not do anything with it. John Lee Hancock, I don't know if your studio producers kind of got the better of this film and they chopped it up and whatever, but it seems like he went in a lot of directions that just dead-ended nowhere, and that time would have been better spent on character dev.
Yeah, I can see that. Denzel, obviously, his main storyline and kind of the one that you can kind of get behind is that he's haunted by his past, obviously. And Greg, you call it a redemption story, but it almost feels like in order for him to get his redemption, which I don't clearly understand how he was redeemed, but it almost like, well, now Rami Malek is in the same situation I am. So since I know how to clean it up, I've been redeemed. Like, I don't understand where the redemption part of what you were saying comes from.
Well, because
but
for him,
the ending did feel like it was a redemption.
So for him, he is haunted with the idea that, one, he didn't catch the bad guy,
right,
and two, he didn't save the girl, either girl.
He did, yes.
But the redemption story for me comes in the fact that Rami Malek is only haunted by this because he doesn't know. And so sending him the little trinket at the end says, look, I know you're upset. I know this is not right, but at least you got the bad guy. Right? So Rami Malek now has peace of mind in knowing that he got the bad guy. Unless he's not the bad guy and another body turns up. Oops. Right? Yeah. But we can't think about it that way.
That's not where the ending was alluding.
So that's where the redemption is that we got the bad guy. So he can't save his own soul, but he can save Rami Malek's soul, right?
Okay, I can see that. But let's talk about it. Ernesto, how'd you feel?
I didn't say it was
ending?
A good redemption story.
So
right.
I kind of see that, but something you just reminded me of. So at the end, when he sends him that note at the very end of the movie, he sends him the red beret that's supposed to be from the jogger. So he probably thinks that that's from this guy's apartment. But you later find out at the end that he bought that red beret. He sent it to him. So it's like,
correct.
I don't know. That's
what I mean. So
yeah, it's kind of weird.
He's allowing Rami Malek to have a clear conscience and continue doing his job well, so that he doesn't have to quit and repeat the cycle of haunted cop quits over, bad case mistake. Especially after the throat punch kid took his life too, right? Like.
Okay.
And it's funny because I actually had to get that explained to me. Ernesto, we had her on the show, Michelle Imparato. I was watching this during my break at work today, and she had watched it, and she's like, let me know when you finish, and we can talk about it. So I finished it. We were talking about it, and I was like, what's this with this red beret thing? I didn't understand it. And then it took me, she explained the whole situation, so I give her credit for me understanding the end of the movie. But it was, then I thought about it some more, and it was almost like a throwaway line that they had, and like toward the end of the movie, he's like, well, did you find the red beret? He's like, no, but give me 5 more minutes and I'll find it. And so that was the line. That was like Rami Malek was asking Denzel if he found something or found something.
Right. Well, that was
lines.
because Denzel found the box of trophies in
the
apartment. And when they were asking, when the mother first went to the police for the missing purses, they were like, well, can you give us anything else? And she's like, she always wore a red hair bow. If you find her, she always wore a red hair bow. That's how you can identify the body. So if the guy's taking trophies, that's the trophy he'd be likely to take because she was jogging in her sweatpants with nothing else, right?
Yeah. Right. And
he didn't not like some serial killer to take like a lock of hair or a finger or whatever. This guy took necklaces and jewelry or whatever. So.
But honestly, he didn't take. I mean, obviously, we find out that he didn't take anything. Like these weren't. Yes, they were trophies, but just like maybe just newspaper clippings.
Well, newspaper clippings, and there was like a necklace, and there was the bracelet. There were other physical things in the box that he found. So
now, I don't remember that.
I don't remember necklaces and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, you could be right.
Wrong.
Now we're all unsure.
Now we're all questioning. Like I don't know if I'm going to watch it again.
It's just more bad decision making on the part of all these characters for me.
Well, let's talk about this ending.
Okay. Well,
bit.
One, why does Rami Malek leave his car at Sparma's house? That's stupid.
Yes. Yeah. That whole scene was also very frustrating to me because I'm like, Remy, you're better than walking to that car right now, right? You know that's a very stupid idea for you to jump in that car right now.
It's like, oh, he's dead.
Like, okay, you've got a gun. I get it. Okay, so now you go, right? And you get to the desert. And after the second hole, I'm like, okay, give me your keys. I'm leaving you here.
Right.
And I can just come back with a team of dogs.
Yeah.
I can call in my team and we'll find it.
Right. If there's something here, we can just bring back a whole team of dogs. And you wait here, or don't. I don't care. How'd you find the location? Oh, Sparma took me here. Well, why did he take you? He told me to get in the car and drove. So you went with him? Yeah, but look, we found it. Well, now we're just wasting resources. Yes, but we can't. Like after the second hole, I'm like, no, I'm not digging any more holes. This is stupid.
Yeah. But I mean, and this is at this point. I was unaware of maybe his turning point, but obviously he became obsessive over finding the girl. Like, he needs to get a win for him, and he's almost believed, and for some reason he is believed, that Jared Leto is the killer. So he must be telling the truth. He wouldn't have driven him all the way out here for nothing. And so even to the point where he accidentally kills him, and Denzel's like, just bury him and I'll take care of the rest. He comes back and he's still looking for the girl.
Right, he's still digging holes.
He's still digging holes, right. So I think, I'm not sure if there was any point, and I might have missed it, but where was his turning point to go like, here, I'm a straight edge cop, to be like, now I'm obsessed with this one case?
Well, that's what I said, like, poor character dev. Like,
right.
There's nothing they give us in his backstory to make us believe that he would turn and flip the way, right? At least if it was Deke, if it was the other way around, and it was Deke digging holes, like, I have to find this girl to make up for the last one. Like, if they would have switched the ending,
right,
and they would have had Jared Leto have Deke go out there, and Rami Malek come out and be like, look, bro, like, I don't know what your backstory is, but this is stupid, right? Let me help you. And have Rami Malek become Deke's angel as a young cop, like, you know, now he's got this, like, let me handle it. He's a straight edge cop, and now to protect this old grizzled cop career, he does something against the law, hide the body or whatever. That, to me, is a more compelling ending for characters we don't care about.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I do agree with you on that, because like it didn't to the moment where Rami Malek accidentally killed him, like you can see it as a shocking moment, but I think the audience more or less realized that, like, okay, this guy is easily toying with you, and we knew that for a while, and he is clearly maybe not the killer.
Right. It was a TV show. Like, if this had happened in Law and Order, I'd have been like, okay, that's fine. Because it happens in a feature film, it's like,
yeah, it's like, not as forgiving.
Yeah.
Right. Ernesto, do you believe that where do you line on, is he a killer? Is he just a freak? Where do you line on Jared Leto's character?
I think he's a creep, because they already planted the seed that he came 8 years prior and made up a whole bunch of stories, but it wasn't until they found out that he was physically too far away from these crimes to commit any of them. So I think he's just a crazy freak who's obsessed with true crime, and, you know, just wrapped himself up to the point to, you know, getting himself killed as a potential suspect.
It almost feels like he wanted to get killed in that moment. Like he was just him, yeah. He was like almost anticipating it, and then when it happened, obviously it was instantaneously, so he didn't like really dwell on it. He just died as soon as he got hit over the head.
You know, his character's kind of tropey, right? Like the obsessed guy that wants to inject himself in the case.
Right.
There's a couple other films and TV shows where they have the same kind of character that just wants to be the story, because that's what their life is about. I mean, you know, the police scanner in his apartment, the news clippings. He's one of those kinds of characters. I think maybe Hannibal had a similar kind of situation when that was running. But even still, it's still not enough. Like, we care more about whether or not Jared Leto's character is the killer or not than we care about anything else about the film, and that's not how it's supposed to shake out. Mm-hmm. Like, it almost doesn't matter whether or not he was the killer, which is the point maybe of the ending of the film. Like, it doesn't matter as long as you believe. I don't know.
Trust your gut.
Like, cops are bad cop, no donut. Like
no donut for you, sir.
What are we supposed to get out of the ending of the film? Cops are bad.
Well, you make a
they
good
do
point.
Bad shit sometimes for the greater good.
But it wasn't for the greater good. Neither situation was for the greater good. They were just looking out for themselves.
Nothing good comes out of it. Just cops are bad to make themselves feel better.
Right.
Or make each
but
other
let's
feel
say
better.
that they. Well, I wouldn't even say that they were, like, in both those situations, they weren't bad cops. They did a bad thing accidentally. But that scarred them.
They covered it up.
Life. But that's what made them the bad
That's
part.
not good.
That's not
They
good.
made bad choices.
Rami Malek, by getting in the car in the first place, digging holes for hours, then killing a suspect, then covering it up, makes him a bad cop.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
all not just like bad cop evil, but like objectively bad at your job.
Yes. Yes.
You make poor decisions.
And I love Rami Malek.
Yeah.
Yes,
The
I know
actor.
you preference that
Rami
you
Malek,
loved
the cop.
Mr. Robot. Yeah, not the cop. Also, is it just me, or was it weird to see him with a family? Any movie that I've ever seen him in, he's always like he's like when he's like a loner, or like, you know, the leader of a band, and what was he? Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, he's got a wife, Shorta. He almost marries her. He left her all of his stuff as Freddie Mercury.
Right. Yeah, that's fair, but also I didn't buy it. You know, he was more of a loner.
And in Mr. Robot, he's got a sister.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about he's in this movie. They paint him like a family man, but he never got happy. He was always a very sad father, and like there was like one scene where like his wife was like in the bathroom, and like she was looking at the mirror, and she turns like, "Hey, did you set the alarm?" He goes, "Yeah," and then just walks away.
That was a weird
What's
scene.
the purpose of the scene?
I actually thought, you know, it's funny you brought that one specific part up, is that when I heard that, I was like, oh, they spent a lot of time on that. I wonder if that's going to be important. Like, I felt the need to remember. And then it wasn't.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, so like, oh, maybe there's like some tough tension with their marriage. And then the next time we see his wife, they're having breakfast on the table. Denzel's there. Oh, look at the kids. Like, oh, I love my family. Yes, but they're like, his point is like, oh yeah, you know, I'm very lucky to have this family. Now back to the case.
Well, and so okay, let's get existential with this for a minute. Taking a step back, as you guys know, you work in the television, the media industry. Everybody has what they are and what their range is. Even though Rami Malek's in his like late 30s now,
yeah,
his age range is still like 16 to 21, right?
Yeah, he can probably pull it off.
Yeah,
he still comes off as a kid. So
Yeah.
seeing him with a family, it comes off as a little disingenuous. Not that he doesn't have the chops to pull it off, but that, you know, our industry is still very aesthetic, right? As much as we like to be inclusive and open and whatever, it's film and television. It's about what you look like, half as much as it's about how you act. And so that part is not believable, on top of the fact that everything else about the character is not developed properly. So you just...
Right.
You don't buy it that he has maybe he's in WITSEC. Maybe he's...
maybe that's what it is.
Maybe they're all plants. I don't know.
That did throw me off, but I mean, kind of just going back to this, like to your point, like they spent a lot of time with these scenes that didn't add up to anything, but then when Jared Leto enters the screen, you're like, all right, dude, I don't know what the hell's going on with you, but keep doing what you're doing. Even to the whole point, like I felt like he knew he was being watched. And like this whole time he's just toying with him, from the investigation, for him not taking the car and taking the bus, for him just playing along. Like, why the hell did
when
Rami
you see him
Malek...
in the garage, even when you first see him, that first little cameo, where he's like, "Can I get a list of all your employees?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, here's a list." And you just see this like greasy-haired like back of a head, and then like just before the camera pans away, he gets the turnaround. You're like, "Oh, hey, whoa,
that guy."
Hey.
Who's that? I know
remarkably, except he's still way too pretty to be kind of a scummy dude, right? Because Jared Leto's a pretty guy. Like,
yeah,
you can't dirty him up enough to make him not be pretty.
I don't know. To me, it was believable.
Yes.
Yeah, creepy.
Yeah,
yes.
but you believe he's a creep, but you don't believe that he's like filthy and destitute.
Yeah.
His teeth are still too good.
Creeper. Yeah.
You know.
But they put a lot of like I feel like he was the only person that like the director was like, hey, I need you to build your own character development. He's like, all right, I got this. And then everyone else is like, it's kind of like that. And Denzel's like nobody acted bad in this movie. I feel like they were underutilized, or like Jared Leto felt like he was in a different movie altogether. And I also felt, which was a great scene, by the way, was when like Denzel was kind of raiding his apartment, and Jared Leto called the cops in his own place.
Yeah,
like, hey,
I like that too.
And he was like, dead cops, and then like everyone's just rushing in there. I'm like, you could have said anything. You went with the cop down route, and had the whole forces coming into this, and so
he's literally watching
Virgin.
Yeah. Shirley Temple.
Shirley Temple.
Watching Denzel Washington climb on the roof.
Yes. And also, was it me? And this is like a pacing issue, but like when Rami Malek jumped in the car with Jared Leto, and like Denzel's following him, I felt like we spent like 20 minutes. Way too long on that car ride, right? It was just like, do we need to see every turn and street you go down? Like, I get it.
They wanted us to know that it was really far away. They could have just showed us the mile markers.
Yeah. which they made a point in the movie
of
to tell us
referencing the
about.
mile markers before. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Exactly.
And then then Denzel had this, like you mentioned before, this relationship with the coroner, and also like we know that he got divorced, so like he went to go visit his wife, or I guess his ex-wife, but nothing came out of that. It's like, hey, I'm in town. You doing good? Yeah, I'm doing good.
Call
okay,
your
cool.
daughter. Okay.
Yeah, all right, I'll call her. Did you at the end? Do you call her? No, Denzel. You didn't even call your daughter. You burned a whole bunch of shit, and then you see the stray dog that shows up to your house. Happy ending, right? We did a good job here. Yeah, it's a lot of things didn't add up, but like there's something to be said about how the movie ended, of just like making sure that like this guy doesn't go down the same path I do. And like, even though he did a bad thing,
redemption story.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. Like,
it's not enough.
It's not enough. I agree with you that. But for some reason, that ending is lingering. Like, you had a guy who was a creep, and he was toying with this guy to the point where he reached Rami Malek's breaking point to end up killing him. And it's almost like, he felt like justice was served by Denzel sending him the red beret. But Denzel was doing it for me and out of selfish reasons. As like, without justice involved. It's just like, I don't want him to do I do, but we're still going to do all the bad things, though. But at least he has a clean conscience about it. He can go back to work at the end of the day. Because he knows
he's a
he
good
was
cop
haunted.
with lots of potential.
To
do much more good later, I guess.
Yeah, so as we're kind of, I feel like we're wrapping this up. So like overall, like what were your closing arguments in this movie? Greg, we'll start with you.
So, I think, like I said earlier, the movie is not as good as the sum of its parts. Jared Leto steals the show. He, like you said, he's acting in a different movie. He's Raul Julia in Street Fighter, right? He got the note that nobody else got. Cinematography is gorgeous. It was well shot. We could say what we want about the editing and the pacing, but the physical cinematography was, again, John Schwartzman brought us Pearl Harbor, Armageddon, the new Jurassic World movies, 50 Shades, whatever. He's a brilliant cinematographer, so it was a beautiful film to watch. The mood is set well, the tension, the creepiness.
Yeah, I will agree to that.
Mm-hmm.
But with a lack of character development, with a lack of plot points, with a lack of relevant plot points, it really gets kind of a C- overall as a film.
Interesting. Ernesto?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same wheelhouse. Like, I thought the acting was great, but the writing was just maybe subpar. Like, and to me, that's your heart and soul. Like,
Yeah.
This is one of those clear cases where you can see, like, it doesn't matter how great the actor is, how beautiful the cinematography is, but if the writing isn't on point, like, everything else just falls short.
I can see that as well. Before I forget, I do want to mention, what did you guys think of the score? The music in the film. There was anything stuck out to you?
Aside from it being integrated in such a way that you don't notice it, but it still helps set the mood.
Okay.
It's not memorable. I don't remember it. I can't hum any bars.
Fair enough. The reason why I ask is because I took a note to kind of I wrote it in my notes of how it felt like it was a little bit of like the music played very well to the movie is what I'm trying to say. Like the mood was definitely built in there, but there was like this. It's hard to describe what it is, but it's almost like a sense of wonder or twinkling sounds that worked very well for it. But I've heard this sound before. It took me about halfway through the movie to realize that like this sounds oddly like Finding Nemo, where right. Hold on, I'll wrap this around in a second.
I'm with you.
Yes, it oddly sound like Finding Nemo, and it has like the and I butchered that, but either way, there's a sense there. I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm kind of digging this soundtrack. Credits start rolling. I see the composer, Thomas Newman, aka the composer of Finding Nemo. And I was like,
man.
I was like, no fucking way. This guy has a style, and you decide to put Finding Nemo in this very hard, dark, gritty cop drama, and like it worked. But also, I like Ernesto was like applauding. I kind of patted my whatever the phrase is. The fact that like I was able to hear that for a composer to really, he has his own style. But yeah, it was a weird thing to point out, but Thomas Newman definitely composed the film. But yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat as the both of you. The story's only as strong as your plot, and the plot was weak. And so I do think that there were some good moments in there, but all of those moments added up to when Jared Leto was on screen. It really comes to no surprise that he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor at the Golden Globes this year. That was the only performance, I believe, that was nominated from this movie. I don't know if it's going to go all the way to the Oscars, but if anything, I don't know what...
I can see that.
I mean, his performance is really good.
Yeah.
For Best Supporting, you mean? Like Oscar Best Supporting Performance?
Mm-hmm.
At least to be mentioned. At least to be mentioned.
I think it's definitely there. I forgot what the other nominations were for Supporting Actor, but obviously this was interesting. It was definitely well deserved for a nom, nonetheless, because I think it was really good, and I think we all said that was one of the strongest points of this movie. Also, on a side note, the director and the writer of this film, John Lee Hancock, he and I was actually really looking forward to this movie because of his other work. He is the director of The Blind Side, Saving Mr. Banks, The Founder with Michael Keaton. So like he's had some interesting films under his belt, and then to come out with this with very weak writing kind of surprised me. Where I believe I'll take that back. He did not write The Blind Side. So. No, he did. No,
he was a writer.
Yeah, he was a writer for The Blind Side. Yeah, so I was surprised that I felt that movie had it was very strong to come out with this one where it was very weak. So all in all, the movie was just okay.
Yeah, he wrote The Highwayman too, right?
Yes, he did. Yeah, with
Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson.
Yes, yeah. That movie was all right. It was
all right. I saw it.
It was okay. But yeah, anyway, that's our spoiler review on The Little Things. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Reach us out on social media and our email at boxofficebingers@gmail.com. Hey, thanks for listening to this edited version of our weekly podcast, Box Office Bingers. If you want to hear the full version of all of our episodes, which includes us discussing entertainment news, movie and TV reviews, guest interviews, and other things we've been watching, you can find us on wherever you listen to podcasts.
And if you want more from us, be sure to hit that subscribe button and find us on our social media channels on Instagram at boxoffice_bingers, Facebook at boxofficebingers, email at boxofficebingers@gmail.com, and Matt, we're even on the Tiki-Takis. We're on the Tiki-Takis at Box Office Bingers. Once again, thanks for listening.